What if ancient wisdom could speak directly to your life today? Welcome to Torah from Boca, where Rabbi David Baum brings the heart of Jewish tradition to the modern world. Each week, discover powerful lessons from Torah from Boca Raton, one of the fastest-growing Jewish populations in the world. We explore stories of leadership, resilience, and compassion, and help you find meaning for every stage of your journey. Whether you're a lifelong learner or just curious, tune in and let our Torah inspire you. Listen now to Torah from Boca with Rabbi David Baum.
So I wanted to ask if anyone knew, let me just move this real quick. If anyone knew the oldest physical evidence that we have of the Torah. Does anyone know what that evidence is? Sorry? I did, but if you read it, don't give the answer. I'll give you the answer. What most people think about is the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's what they think about the oldest physical evidence. And that was true until 1979, which as a 46-year-old was not that long ago. It wasn't. But when I told it to the 8th graders yesterday, they were like, wow, that was so long ago. But it's only been since 1979 when an archaeologist named Gabriel Bar-Kai was leading a dig near a site called Ketef Chinom, which is literally the shoulder of Chinom. It's a place right outside of the old city. It's right next to Gehinom, which is this pit where they had child sacrifices. And this guy, Bar-Kai, did not have a lot of money, and that's why he wasn't in where all the archaeologists were inside the city. He was outside. And this place had been picked over by grave robbers centuries ago. But he was there because maybe he could find something. He didn't have enough money to hire people to help him, so he went to a local archaeology club of 13 to 14-year-old boys, and he brought them for their internship to help with this excavation. One of the boys was named Nathan, and Bar-Kai writes about this in his diaries. Nathan would not leave Bar-Kai alone. He was a very eager 13-year-old boy who was always tugging at his shirt and asking him, what is this and what is that? Can I do this and can I do that? And Bar-Kai got very annoyed with Nathan. And so he gave him a broom, and he said, I want you to go into that cave over there. It's a burial cave. And I want you to sweep up all the dust because we're going to take pictures of the cave. Now, Bar-Kai thought, how could a child clean up a cave full of dust? It would take centuries. But Nathan finished. And Bar-Kai said, go back. And Nathan didn't know what else to do, so he had a hammer with him. And he did probably the worst thing that anyone can do at an archaeology site unsupervised. He started banging everywhere with the hammer. But what happened was, he banged and the floor in one certain part gave way to a lower chamber. And there he found treasures that were sealed 2,600 years before. Inside, they found 1,000 objects. They found gold earrings, glass beads from Phoenicia, iron arrowheads. They found pottery. It was the jewelry of real people. It was possessions of Jerusalem's families from the time of the first temple, which, as we know, many of them were taken into exile into Babylonia. But inside that little chamber were 2 tiny, tightly rolled cylinders of silver. They were no bigger than 2 pencil erasers held together. And they were so fragile that they could not be opened. And the archaeologists took these little amulets, they didn't know they were amulets at the time, to different museums around the world. No one would touch them. Finally, they came back to the Israel Museum. And the Israel Museum developed a way to open them. It took 3 years, millimeter by millimeter, every day. That means there was someone's job to just open it up just a little bit every day for 3 years. And on that piece, those 2 pieces of silver, were found these words: Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. They found the priestly blessing nearly 400 years older than the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so because of Nathan, we have the oldest surviving biblical text ever found. And it proved what we knew all along. These words have been with us in our hearts since our very beginnings as a people. And it was found, like I said, by a 13-year-old boy with a broom and a hammer who wouldn't leave an archaeologist alone. The priestly blessing is seemingly connected to these moments. Now we are at the end of the year. Our children are going off to summer camp. They're graduating from middle school or high school or college. But I think about the kids who are Nathan's age, who are about to go to their summers. But I also think about the Judean families from the 6th century BCE that kept these words as an amulet to protect them. They were important to them because they were ancient to them. They were old words, passed down generations to generation. But I imagine, like in every generation, they interpreted the words for their time. As I thought about how another famous Jew interpreted the words for this time, there was someone who did it where no one has gone before. What I'm talking about is when the priestly blessing was brought to outer space, more specifically by a Vulcan Jew named Leonard Nimoy. It was during the original Star Trek series that Nimoy's character greeted humans with his hand like this and his words, anyone know? Live long and prosper. How did Nimoy come up with this? He remembered growing up in his Orthodox shul, going with his grandfather, and he always remembered Birkat Kohanim as this special moment. And they asked him, they said, we need a Vulcan handshake, like a secret handshake. And he said, I have the perfect thing for you. And he held up his hand like this. And they said, how strange. This is so, we've never seen anything like this. And the interesting thing, and he writes about this in his book, in his biography, Nimoy, he says, and people don't know that when they lift their hand for the Vulcan salute, they're actually blessing each other. The priest recited the prayer, but it wasn't the Kohen who blessed the people. Rather, the Kohen was a conduit of the blessing. The blessing comes from God. It's channeled through the Kohanim, the priests. And it teaches us that no human is divine, but divinity can flow through us, and it can affect others. As Spock said, we bless each other, and to me, that's not something to take lightly. It also teaches us that whether you were born 7,000 years ago today or in Stardate whatever in the future, even if humans are born on starships, there are some things that just will not change. The human heart has the same needs, urges, and concerns that span across time. And when I think about that concept, I think about the relationships between generations, between young people and their parents and seniors, Gen Z and millennials and Gen Xers and baby boomers. And I thought about the tension that exists in this country and in the world. And I thought, can we start looking at each other in the eyes and accept each other? The Kli Yakar, a well-known commentator, he has an interesting comment about the second line of the priestly blessing. May God cause God's face to shine upon you, and may God be good to you. The Hebrew word is elecha, which means to you, but not looking down to you and not looking up to you. It means eye to eye. And I held that image in my mind of Clea Carr, of parents, 2 generations looking eye to eye to each other. And I want you to try this. Look to the person next to you in their eyes. Make eye contact for just 5 seconds. All right. You know what I saw a lot of? Smiles and laughter. Do you know why? Because it is uncomfortable to stare at someone in the eyes. And we break the tension with a smile or a laugh. You ever wonder why it was uncomfortable to look at someone in the eye? My theory is we see a piece of the divinity, the divine light in us. And when you're staring at God in the eye, it's hard not to feel just a little bit uncomfortable. I think about Esau's words to Jacob after Esau forgives him, when he says, seeing your face is like seeing the face of God. And I thought about what we have to stop doing, which is looking down on each other. And we have to start looking at each other eye to eye, to see the divine sparks that exist in all ages, the wisdom that each age holds. And if we share and listen to each other, I believe we can become wiser and holier. As I think about that concept, I can't help but think about Barkai and Nathan. 2 generations apart. Nathan desperately wanted to be taught by this archaeologist who wouldn't even look him in the eye. And I think, how often do we make the same mistake with our youth? We shoo them away because we find their energy annoying, taking us away from what we think is really important, but what's really important is what's right in front of us. Now, I am guilty of choosing a screen over a face, like all of us, artificial lights instead of the twinkle of divinity in another's eye. But it's something we have to work on. And I think this is how we get to that shalom part at the end. V'yasem lacha shalom. Shalom does not mean tranquility and peace. All too often, generations, we battle with each other. But what would it look like if we saw each other eye to eye? And I think about that idea. Because with tension and argument comes a bit of wholeness. We become more whole when we can hear each other's perspectives. Now, of course, my Devar Torah would not be complete if I didn't return to Jerusalem in 1979. And Barkai and this team of adolescent boys who's digging up this site from centuries ago. Together, they found a treasure. It didn't just affect their lives and made them famous, as I'm telling you today, but it affected every Jew on earth. Barkai thought that Nathan was a distraction, but the boy was the key to the treasure. So this week, I want to challenge us to do something. To find your Nathan. To find the young person in your life who is tugging at your sleeves, full of energy that you don't know what to do with. And instead of giving them a broom and a busy look, stop, look at them in the eye, and let them teach you something. Let the blessing flow between you. As I think about my own life, I think about the opportunities that I had when someone gave me a broom. It was my senior year of college. I needed to make a little money, have a flexible schedule. So I went to my friend, my mentor, Keith Dvorchik, who was the head of the Hillel. He said, I only have one job, janitor. I said, okay. And I did it. But what happened after a week was that Keith said to me, hey, I need your help. We have some kids who got in trouble, and they have to do community service hours. They're good kids. They fell into a bad crowd, but I think it was important to bring them here. So I know I hired you to be the janitor, but now you're the head janitor. You don't have to sweep anymore, but you got to watch over these kids. And now I'm a rabbi. I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful summer for those who will be going away. And again, may our youth open their eyes this summer, take brooms and hammers, and change the world. Amen.
If you found inspiration in today's episode of Torah from Boca, please visit Rabbi David Baum at Congregation Sha'arei Kodesh in Boca Raton. Discover more of his teachings and community work by visiting rabbidavidbaum.com. Subscribe, share, and join us again as we connect ancient wisdom to the challenges of today. Thank you for listening.